Hello, I'm Laura Boyd and welcome to the latest episode of Beats and Talks, where today I am delighted to be joined by the lovely Paolo Lizzeri. Paolo, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us in the studio. So, obviously this is about Beatson and you have quite the story. You've got 3 stories, shall we say. So, tell me about your story and the first time you were diagnosed with cancer.
Well, the first time I was 25. So I just finished university and I was like, I'm ready for the world, looking for new jobs. And I felt kind of tired. I was wondering really what was going on. I actually went to the GP because I thought I had a problem with my hearing. And the GP, you know that way you're in a GP in the end and he goes, is there anything else that you're worried about? And I was like, well, there's this lump in my neck and it's been there for like maybe a month or 2. And he was like, okay. Well, maybe we'll get that kind of looked at and we'll take a little biopsy and send it away. And I didn't really think much of it. And then ultimately about 2 weeks later, I got a call back saying, yeah, we're going to send you to the Beatson and get you checked over. Still nothing necessarily to worry about, but it might be here and there. And then that was it. The first time, Hodgkin's lymphoma. Put your life on hold. Here we go.
Did you know when they said Beatson? Did you get that rush of, oh?
I had a bit of that, yeah. I was anticipating something was going to be happening. But I think at that age, I felt like I was invincible.
Yeah.
I was full of beans, confidence, built like I was ready to go. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, this is something a little bit different. And then when I actually got told, it was actually in another hospital in Glasgow. I can't remember which one, the one in town, at the top of town. And I was by myself because I was like, Mum and Dad don't need to come, it'll be fine. We're just having a discussion anyway. And they said, actually, you've got Hodgkin's lymphoma. And it was like, like the world just shrunk around me. Yeah. And I was like, well, can I still get my hearing checked?
That was your concern.
Yeah, and they were like, of course, go and get your hearing aid check. And I was like, I called a couple of my friends, texted one of my friends, actually, texted my parents. One of my best friends, Stuart, who I've known since I was at that height, he was actually at the hospital before anyone else was, he was there. And it was all just sort of a bit of a whirlwind from there.
Yeah.
I mean, people talk about the NHS and waiting times and how bad things can be and all that, but see, when you're in serious trouble like this,
they are there.
It's immediate.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was in chemotherapy a week after that, like straight away, you're in for it. So there's a bit of an adjustment period, but I think getting over the initial shock, you go into sort of a mode where it's purely right. What do I need to do?
Yeah.
Let's get this done and get it over with.
Yeah.
And that's that. So that was kind of the first time, and it was 6, 7, 8 months of chemotherapy, PET scans, all the rest of it. And then they said, we think that's it.
You're good.
And I was like, we're good. So I was like, finally. So just towards the end of that, I applied for roles and stuff. I got the role that I have now working. And I actually did my little video and stuff. I still barely had my eyebrows and things, but I got the job and I was like, perfect, we'll move on to the next level. And then 3 years later, the middle one I don't remember as well as like the last one there and the first one. However, it was kind of the similar thing. I was feeling a little bit tired. And at that point, I was like, oh, I'm worried. I'm going to go.
Did you get the fear there? Yeah.
So I'm very fortunate that I had been in the Beatson for a while and I'd made quite good relationships with the nurses and doctors and everyone else. Got checked over and they were like, oh, we'll get you in for a PET scan and see what's happening. And that was it, round 2.
Gosh, of the same thing.
Same thing again. Hodgkin's lymphoma had relapsed after 3 years.
And how mentally were you then? Because you go through that, I mean, as you say, you almost go into autopilot when you're going into treatment and stuff because they need to take you through it. But to think you've got your life back and then to be hit with that again, what was that like?
It was like, bloody hell, not again.
Do you know
what I mean? I think it was quite hard at first to understand again, but then, very quickly I kind of got over the initial shock again, and it was just...
You knew what to expect.
You knew what to expect, exactly. And
did that make it easier or harder?
It made it slightly easier because I knew what to expect in terms of how chemo was going to feel. I was going to lose my hair, I was going to feel bad, and we were going to get through this. The Hodgkin's lymphoma, if you're going to get cancer, is quite a good one to get in terms of it's extremely treatable. So I knew my outcomes were still going to be good, and they're like, look, we're still going to look to solve this completely by the end of this. You're going to have to do a stem cell transplant. And at that time, it was an autologous stem cell transplant. So it was my own stem cells that they were using. That was difficult. That was a bit of time spent in hospital, and obviously it was that COVID at that time? Or was it COVID afterwards? I can't remember. I get mixed up.
Yeah.
But you're spending a lot of time in one hospital room. You can't really see any
Isolation.
people. But I went in with the full mindset that I was going to get this done as quickly as possible because I hate being in there. So 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and I was out.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, we're done. We're cool. And then that was it. Back again. And slowly but surely making progress in my life. So I bought a flat and I was like, I got another job working in the same company, but I moved up a little level and I was like, right, now it's time to get back into things. And then 2 years ago now, I was working and everyone gets tired in the afternoon at work. You know, you have your lunch, you're sitting at your computer, you're starting to get a little bit, but I was getting really tired.
Yeah.
I was having to go and just like take a little lie down in my seat like sometimes, and I thought, this isn't quite right. So I was going to my GP to get bloods done. It had a range of something like 1 to 30. Yeah. Mine was like 60. And then I went back the next month and it was 90. Then I went back the next month and it was 120. And when I got to 120, my doctor was like, there's might be something wrong. Have you got anything wrong with you? And I was like, I feel fine. I don't think anything's a problem. I feel really tired and stuff. And they're like, right, well, you better maybe call your specialist again and go back down. So here we go again, straight back down to the specialist. Same doctor, same nurses.
You'd moved away at this point, were you?
I was living in Elgin.
Yeah.
So I was living 3.5 hours north of Glasgow. Yeah. But because I'd had so much history in the Beatson, I figured
that was the place to go.
That was the place to go, yeah. I mean, the doctors and nurses in the north, it's far more sparse and there's not as many, there's not as much support up there as there is in Glasgow. So I was like, I'll come back down. I'll get the word from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Yeah, and then we got back into it and I got another PET scan and they were like, guess what?
Is that normal? Is that quite a rare thing for it to come back 3 times?
I think the third time is potentially pushing your luck a little bit. Yeah. I don't think that's completely normal, especially having done a transplant prior to that as well. So each time that I've gone back, the treatment has got steadily more aggressive. Mm-hmm. So this time they were like, right, we're going to maybe just throw the kitchen sink at it this time.
Blast it.
And
were you okay with that? Because I can imagine I would be like, do anything to me.
It was pretty much that, yeah. I was like, I know. I was like, as I say in my videos and stuff, I was like, I know what to expect. Yeah. I've done a transplant before. We'll just go and do it. And it's that way where it's like, well, the thing is, people are always like, when you get cancer and things, people are like, oh, you're so brave and you're doing so well. I couldn't imagine. It's like, no, it's not. You have 2 options.
Yeah.
And one is to do it and one is to not do it and potentially die. So you really have one option.
Yeah. You just got to go with it.
Just do it. Yeah. And that's it. So it was that. I will say I was quite trepidatious to go back into hospital and get another stem cell transplant because this time it was very lucky that my little brother had donated his cells. However, he was only a half match. It was a haploidentical match. Right. And therefore, the actual treatment itself was going to be a lot more difficult. They give you much heavier chemo. They give you the cells. They have to allow the cells to proliferate in your body, which is basically like having like a systemic infection for like a day or 2. So you're like shaking and hot and you just feel like terrible. And then after that, they give you another high-dose chemotherapy as well to get rid of those cells and kind of get everything on a level again.
So ill at that point.
Ill.
With a view to getting better.
Yeah, so I got really fat. Well, not really fat, but I got quite fat before I went to hospital because I was like, I knew I was going to lose weight. So I was up at like 90, 92 kilos or something prior to going to hospital, and I came out at 73. I hadn't eaten anything by mouth for about 2 weeks at the end of hospital because I just could not stomach anything. And your taste buds die. You can't taste. Everything tastes like you're like a battery. You know, it's like...
I saw you say that in your videos, yeah.
Like metallic.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I remember coming home after the hospital and I had a slice of pizza and it was actually like I'd bitten into like an acid battery.
Oh,
so I was like, what? And now I can't eat Domino's to this day. Oh, no. You can't touch it.
Your waistline will love you for it.
It does. It's fantastic. Well, you know what? There are upsides to that as well. Slimmest I've ever been since I left school.
You've got to take these tiny pluses.
You've got to take it.
No, joking. That is something that you do. So I've watched your videos because you have documented this.
I have, yeah.
And on YouTube and stuff. And the comments are amazing, actually, because there's so many people that are going through similar or going through cancer, and they've said your videos have helped. And you do have quite a dark sense of humor with it, which I love because you need that, I think, in part. If you can do that, I think it helps. But it's also really interesting because you don't hold back, and you show. I was saying to you earlier, the one I watched was you when you're going into isolation for basically a month in this grim room, and it was your mum and dad when they were leaving, and your mum was. She had a mask on, but you could see she was breaking her heart. And I just thought, oh, it was so hard to watch, but also the reality of it. How has that been, documenting it? Has that helped you?
That was, for me, the first 2 times I didn't bother doing it, and regretted it. And I'd always had this thought that having been treated so well and gone through all this, I wanted to give something back, but I never really knew how. And I thought, well, I've got a camera phone, and I can just do something like that and just basically document what I'm doing this time, because I've kind of been through it, and maybe I can offer something that's relatable to other people, which was
especially young people.
Especially young people as well, yeah. So that's what I was kind of going for with it. I mean, there's obviously trepidation there as well, because you're under the impression it's like, does anyone actually want to listen to the rubbish that I talk most of the time? Or am I saying it good enough? And you're going through, and you have to edit your own video, so you're watching it over about 1 million times.
Very good editing, I have to say. As someone who works in TV, it was very impressive.
Thank you very much.
I can give you a job.
That iMovie on the laptop, and you just sit there and batter through it, and you're playing the same thing over and over again. Like, is that good? No, that sucks. Is that good? No, that sucks. But I was getting better at it.
Yeah.
It's something I want to pick up again. I had an idea for another video, which was under something. It was survivor's guilt, which is something that doesn't really often get mentioned about in cancer, but it's something that I've, like, because we all have good and bad days, and sometimes in my darker days I think, well, we've been through this not once, not twice now, but 3 times. I should kind of be dead, and I'm not.
Yeah.
Why am I still here? What am I doing as a result of that? Am I doing anything that's actually helping anyone? Am I giving back? No, you're not. Oh God, right? How can I? I don't know how either. And it's just like,
everything. I know it does. It does. And you almost feel guilty, I think, talking about surviving, because I know, like, on World Cancer Day, I put up a post, and I was like, 15 years still here, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, oh God, what about the people that I know so many who aren't, and I've made friends who have lost through it. And you're like, am I showing off that I'm still here? It's not through anything I've done. It's just, it's your luck, isn't it?
It is. And I think the isolation as well coming out, because obviously I had to be socially distant from people and all the things with my immune system and all the rest of it. And ultimately, when you're in there for so long, all you have to think about is your own thoughts. So you go down this deep existential sort of route whereby you're just thinking about everything. And it can kind of overcome you a little bit. Yeah. The best way to get over that, I found, is just speaking to other people, because they're like, shut up.
Yeah.
What are you
need
about?
someone who keeps it real, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Just talk to me like a normal person.
My friends go, oh no, not the cancer again. And here she goes, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
A bit of sensitivity would be nice, but no. Okay. You need that though. And
but I prefer that.
Yeah, no, I do
just be chatting to like that as well. You don't want to be taught. You don't want the cancer to be the defining feature of you.
No.
Ultimately, no. It should be part of your journey.
It's part of your life, but it isn't your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where you want to be with it. So there's a fine line to walk when that's concerned, and with people and other people, because you can see people kind of walking on eggshells around it and stuff, and you're like, no, bro, it's fine. Just tell me it's cool.
Yeah.
I'm still here, and that's fine. And I'm very fortunate. And
you had, you do play it down, because everyone plays it down, but 3 times is a massive thing.
I know.
Are you feeling good just now?
I'm feeling good now, yes. It's been a long journey. We've been 11 months now outside of having the transplant. Yeah. So the first 4 were difficult, because I was an absolute shell of myself. I looked like a bloody extra from like Dawn of the Dead or something, like skinny.
You rock the skinhead.
And like really pale and like, and dark. And I was in a terrible mood because I wasn't eating properly. I didn't want to see anyone.
Hangry.
Exactly, like properly, yeah. So once I got my taste buds back, that helped a bit and get eating. And then once I was able to socialise on some sort of basis, that was a lot better as well, going to see friends and doing different things. And now it's gotten to the point where I think my CD4 count's probably about, half of what it should be, or a little bit more, which means that I can do things like this, and I can come out and see people in a sort of normal fashion. Now, I tend to push the boundaries a little bit. So I went to like a Slipknot concert a few weeks ago.
That's not pushing the boundaries a little bit.
Which I shouldn't have done,
Yeah.
potentially. The doctors are going to go mental if they see this. However, I feel like you still ought to live your life.
That's true.
Regardless.
That is true.
And everything is a risk at the end of the day. So I would much rather be out doing silly things and enjoying myself than sitting in a house and being an emotional wreck.
Yeah.
Which would be the other option.
And you can't be like that because that then just consumes your life.
No.
But how do you go forward? Because I know, and I'm totally fine. So I'm 16 years in this year with leukemia. Not that far off. Hodgkin's lymphoma, they're kind of related. But I'm doing totally fine. But I do know any twinge I get, or if I'm tired, and I'm tired all the time.
You're super para about stuff.
I'm quite paranoid. I'm like, what's going on? And it's just a cold or something.
Yeah.
Have you managed to get over that, or do you worry?
I've stopped doing it as much. My mum and dad used to always go on at me because I used to sit when I was watching telly. It totally wasn't even thinking about it. I'd sit and I'd do this kind of thing.
Wait,
and I'd always be like, kind of like that, or kind of like this. And they're like, what are you touching yourself for? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just doing it. But I think having so much time to have thought about it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm much more comfortable now than I ever have been. And it's kind of like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
Being worried about what's going to happen is not going to make anything different. It's just going to make
and
it
it can almost
worse.
make it worse.
It makes
your body goes
worse.
into kind of shock, and
I think the connection between the way you think and your mind and the health of your body and your actions is kind of not underlooked because everyone's aware of it.
Yeah.
But it's a positive attitude makes such a massive difference.
It really does.
To your outcomes. Even speaking to the nurses, I was like, have you found that the people that have a bit more of a drive have better outcomes? And like, yeah, they tend to recover a little bit faster and do a little bit more. So I was like, right, well, if that's the case, then this is what we're doing. So now at this point, I just want to get back to doing something. But we briefly discussed before we started the cameras rolling that I feel like I owe something back. And at this point in time, I don't know how to make that a reality.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating for me. So that's where I'm at the moment,
But you'll find a way because you watch those videos and you're very good, but you're so driven.
Yeah.
As well. So I think you'll make that happen. And even though you may not realize it, your videos, so third time unlucky on YouTube, you can see I was reading the comments, they help so many people. Have you had young people contact you say that?
I've had quite a few young people and older people as well or have contacted me and just saying, look, I've been going through cancer, feeling the same thing, or I've had a long-term sort of pervasive illness and I can kind of sort of see where you're coming from, or my uncle has been unwell or someone's died, and it's really interesting to see sort of behind the scenes as to how things are actually done. I thought that was really good, and it's been really, really nice. But I mean, some of the best messages I've had, I was in the Beats and when was this? Last year, 2 years ago or something, just having my lunch in the cafe. And I sat down at one of the tables. There was an older lady sitting there, and I just sat across from her and sat down and just had my lunch. I was like, okay, if I sit here, and just struck up a conversation with her. And we had a really nice wee chat about, she was going through treatment and all the rest of it, and she was feeling quite down. And I don't know, we just sat and had a wee bit of a laugh and just chatted about it. And her daughter wrote us just the most loveliest message back saying, thank you so much. Talking to my mum, we had a really good time together and all the rest of it. And I was just like, oh my God, that was so nice.
That is so, so nice.
So yeah, so it's kind of selfish in a little bit because it makes you feel really good.
No, but I think it's reciprocal, because they're getting something out of it too. Did the nurses love having you on the ward? Because I can imagine, I watched this video and we've discussed this. You had the most random stuff in your room ever. And it was an electric bagpipe.
Yes.
Or electric chanter.
Yeah.
Can you play the bagpipes?
I can, yeah. I've been playing bagpipes in school, but I couldn't blow bagpipes in the nurse in the ward. I would do that. I do really stupid.
And they would love that.
I do really stupid stuff like that, but I decided I was going to buy an electric bagpipe and that would give me something to do in the meantime. It's quite good fun. You need to find ways to fill the time. It's so boring in there.
Well, yes, and a toy helicopter that you were flying around the room. They must have been like, what? I bet they loved it.
I had a basketball net. I had a full set of like KRK studio monitors. I was playing music and stuff. I made a video. I was like, they can't even hear anything. And Mum and Dad was like, you can hear everything down the hallway. I was like, I'm so sorry. Everyone else.
They probably loved it.
It was great. And it was good for that amount of time. And then eventually you get so ill that you can't do anything. So you just lie and you just like, I mean, I am a YouTube connoisseur and I think I've watched maybe every single video on YouTube from like
completed it, mate.
Completed it, bro. Like everything from like history and science and all this stuff. And you just sit and watch one after the other. Like,
that's a big chunk of your time growing up.
Yes, it is.
And relationships, friendships, and things like that. Has that been tough?
Yes, for different reasons. I think it takes a minute to really find out what you like and what you want to do. And obviously there are limits to what you can do as well. So it's finding a happy medium. I think it's important to push yourself regardless. So I don't think it's good for anyone to just continue sitting. It's very easy to, and don't get me wrong, I've done it a bunch of times. You sit in your bed all day and feel sorry for yourself. But
and those days are okay. You should have them as well.
Of course. And it happens to everyone. I mean, life is like this for every single person. So you're going to have these days. But what's important is to focus on getting through those because everything does get better. It just takes a bit of, it just takes a bit of that push and a bit of strength. And then once that's done with, then you can start worrying about it. And it's an interesting dichotomy now between how it was and how it is, because I was worrying about, are you going to survive, or when's your next appointment, or is my hair going to grow back, or all of this kind of stuff. And now it's like, I need to buy a flat, or I need to get my job back and make some money, and I need to find a wife and have kids and all this kind of stuff. And all of that, when you think about it simultaneously as well, is a massive existential crisis waiting to happen as well, because it's like...
But in a way, so nice that you're able to think of that. That
right?
These are problems.
Yeah.
Because life is there in front of you.
Exactly.
And so as scary as they are, they're things you really want, actually.
It is. Yeah. You just want
normality.
Want some semblance of normality. Exactly. And getting back to that is nice. And then, yeah. But that comes with the frustrations of thing as well. And then you think, am I just moaning? Am I being too moany right now? Do I feel like I'm hard done by, even though it's probably better than it ever could have been? There's always ups and downs, like I said, and it's extremely complex. It's not black and white. Yeah. And everyone's journey is completely different. I've spoken to so many people who have had similar issues, but have dealt with it in a completely different way, and they're doing just fine as well. So everyone's way of dealing with something everyone has their own coping mechanisms. Mine is to treat the illness with the disdain that it rightly deserves and take the piss a little bit and have a bit of fun and kind of live for today.
Yeah.
But now as I'm getting older, I mean, I'm in my 30s now, and you need to start kind of planning a little bit for the future. So it's like, it's changed me fundamentally as a person.
Do you think, is it completely changed
100%, yeah.
In what way?
Well, it was really funny because I was moaning like this to my gran. And I was saying, it's rubbish and I'm doing this and all this empathy I've got now is bloody tiring me out. And she was like, no, I mean, she looked at me, she's like, Paul, she calls me Paul actually. She's like, Paul, look, I wouldn't wish cancer on anyone. And I think what you've been through is incredibly bad, but you are a better person for it as a result. And that kind of shocked me a little bit because I was like, I wasn't that bad. And she was like, no, you were. And I was like, excuse me. I know, harsh. But you know what? If that's how she saw it, that's how she saw it. Yeah. So, I think coming out the side, it is better. I'm better with people. I give more thought to my actions now as well. And I am trying to develop and be a better person. And that all came as a result of being through such a difficult time.
Yeah, because you've seen the lowest of the low.
Exactly.
So you need to embrace the better.
Exactly. When you know that stuff, I think struggle builds character, ultimately. And I think the most interesting people, at least the most interesting people that I talk to, always have a story or an experience that has been quite shaken by. But once you get through that, it makes you more. It's just more layers to the person, and you've got a cool story to tell, and you're a bit more of a character. I mean, if you have to go life through nothing, and nothing is bad and nothing is good, then everything is just the same, and it's just you need to have a bit of so you know when it's like do you know?
But no more for you.
Hopefully no more.
You've had your fair share now, that's it.
Tentative to say that. This is the thing. Because it's like after 3 times you're like, no, I'm not doing it a 4th time, all right? That's not happening.
That's it.
But it's that. It's very much is that. It's like, let's just try and be better and just like try and build from here. and move forward. It's always moving forward. That's what I want to do. I don't like looking back too much, which is why sometimes making these videos I find quite difficult, because you have to revisit these things. And I'm like, I don't really want to.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's quite cathartic to talk about it. So it's a total mishmash of feelings and emotions.
You can do a mixture of that, the looking back and the looking ahead. And
yes,
I look forward to following your journey.
Yeah, I think trying to frame these things in a nicer light and show you that there is a light at the end of the tunnel if you just keep moving is a good way to do it. And then, just try and build from there. Well,
I wish you all the luck.
Appreciate that.
And we'll no doubt see you on TV, radio, podcasts, whatever you put your mind to, very soon. Thank you so much, Paolo.
Well, thank you for having me.
And if you or someone you know have been affected by cancer and need support or information, then head to beatsandcancercharity.org.